All right, welcome back everyone. We are going to take a break from all the science-y stuff, and we're going to talk about how fundraising and how to get involved. Jen and Tim, board members, will share with you our successes and ideas for how you can get involved. Your family members, your community, anybody. So I will let them do most of the introducing of themselves, but I will say a couple things about these two people. They are amazing. Tim's daughter was diagnosed in April or March.
March 30th.
March 30th. We always remember the exact date. 2022. Tim ended up in August of 2022 being voted on to the board. So he did not waste any time in getting to work and getting involved. And that's just a snippet of who Tim and, of course, Jen is or are. And Jen, oh, and one more thing. Tim, with his best friend who initiated it, Chris, called me up and said, I'm going to be running this Chicago Marathon, and I was thinking maybe of choosing the NR2F1 Foundation as our charity to fundraise for. And I thought, wonderful, perfect. Didn't really know Tim very well at the time. This was before he joined the board, and didn't realize what a big thing it would turn into. Tim then found out, Chris told him, and Tim said, well, I'm going to run it with you. And my husband and I were lucky to be able to go down there and watch them run, and it was just incredibly inspiring to see them running all those 26.2 miles. And they raised over 130K, over 130 grand for the foundation. Yeah, so one simple phone call led to that. It's just the greatest gift. And if you can believe it, he's going to do it again. This time in London, the fall of this year, he's going to run again. And I specifically remember saying, I'm never doing this again, but here you go.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. And of course, Jen is one of the Fab Five. Back in the day when none of this existed, I'll just say this small circle started with 5 of us mothers that I lovingly call the Fab Five, which is what Jen wrote. Once the Facebook parent group was initiated by these parents, the circle rippled into the growing community of support seen today. And Jen also put her athletic endurance to the test and rode in the $1 Million Bike Ride for rare disease research last year. And she raised over $26,000. We work to earn those dollars. We physically, literally work to earn those dollars. And actually, she's doing it again this year with me and a few of my family members in June. So, very excited. She's also, can I mention?
Sure, I'm going to mention it.
Okay. She's also going to be, just decided she's going to start her own 5K event for the foundation. So, yay. Okay, great. I will let you two take over.
Thanks, Carly. Thanks for that introduction. Thank you all for being here. And for those online, thank you for taking the time and listening in. I was in, just to go back to what Carly mentioned, we received the diagnosis March 30th, 2022, which was a Wednesday. And I remember walking out of the Cromwell Hospital in London in just an absolute just fog, like virtually walking into traffic. And we went to a little cafe right around the corner, and we were with a sort of world-renowned pediatric neurologist who herself was Googling and was like, I have no idea what this is, but here's this thing, there's this website. The website was the NR2F1 Foundation, and so within 10 minutes we had this website, which was terrifying, but so powerful to have. And one of the serendipitous gifts that we had is it happened to be a week before, the following Wednesday was the last conference. So my wife and I sort of took off work. We kind of went down into our basement and we spent 10 hours on Zoom just like you all here, just receiving all this information and just getting absolutely bowled over by, one, the amount of it, but two, by the fact that there was this organization that was already there that was kind of doing the work and sort of packaging it in a digestible format for families and researchers. And so credit to everyone who did that hard work. and didn't have a website pop up on Google when they got their diagnosis. So thank you. And we are going to be mindful of time because this is the least interesting part of the conference, but it's very important, and it's something that you all are, I'd say, very uniquely positioned to sort of help impact. And do we have this? If you could put the slides up, that'd be great. Thank you. As a community, we are very, very, very small, but we've said this a few times. Tiny but mighty, and we're made up of a very dedicated group of focused and talented, families, friends, and professionals who all have, one goal, but also each bring, unique skill sets. Some of that is fundraising, some of that is just your lived personal experience. Some of that is you may know someone, you may have a neighbor, you may have a friend, you yourself may have sort of a skill that we as an organization could really benefit from. It could be social media, it could be, you're really good at grant applications, or you have some free time and are willing to lend a hand. And I don't want to sort of take away from the fact that although this says fundraising, this is primarily right now, how can you get involved and how can you help us help all of our kids and all of our families? And so with that sort of disclaimer in mind, just a little bit about fundraising and where we've come from and where we're going. Actually, one more caveat. All these asks come with a very knowing acknowledgement that it's already very difficult to be a parent or family member of a child with special needs. We're not trying to take away from that, and we know that we're going above and beyond asking for more. And so we want to acknowledge that, but also come with an ask. So I'd like to put a bit of this into context before we go into some of the details. When the foundation developed our strategic plan earlier this year, we established kind of 4 sustainability goals, which are essentially the key building blocks to ensure that we have an organization that runs effectively and that will be here in time beyond the individuals who are sort of executing on the plan today. Those are first one, succession planning for the board in case something happens. 2 is to diversify our funding and revenue streams to ensure that financially we're on good, stable footing for the future. 3 is to organize and develop systems and processes to operate efficiently, which I'll come back to. And 4th is to increase our engagement with the broader community. So thinking how those 4 goals sort of, where does fundraising fit in, first and foremost was to implement a sort of a CRM, so a client relationship management tool. I'll come to the next slide in a second. And this is just so we have an understanding of who's in our community, who's engaged, who has donated, who can we ask for again, who do we need to go up and chase. Just really having a central repository, much like we would with the patient registry, of knowing who the patients are. It's who are the people, who are the individuals, who are the organizations that somehow, somewhere have engaged with us. And it's important to recognize that these are people who have engaged, not necessarily with us going out and advertising and banging the drum, but in every single instance, it's been someone in the community has touched someone else, engaged with that person or that organization, and someone has almost unilaterally chosen to come up and engage. And so getting a good understanding of the universe of sort of our network was really important. So we implemented that earlier this year, or last year, excuse me, through a tool called GiveButter, which is a CRM tool specifically for nonprofits. And now that we have that sort of as the baseline sort of tool that's been implemented, we've been able to analyze our fundraising activities. If I could have the next slide, please. And so this is a bit of a snapshot as to sort of where the Fab Five and kind of all the families who've been engaged a lot longer than us have come from, and sort of what's been happening over time. And the reality is, we've only been operating for 5 years, and if you include the pandemic, it's less than that. And really, we've been operating as a startup, and so we've had these same associated startup costs. There was initially a high spend to get it off the ground, notably the website, which is how a lot of us became engaged and involved, and really importantly to ensure that we were on top of the Google search. So if anyone is a search engine optimization expert, we always could use your help. We actually really need that help. It's very expensive, but what it did, it ensured that folks like me, when I walked out of the hospital, typed into Google, first thing that came up was the NR2F1 Foundation, as opposed to being buried on page 3, which is where it was there. But so those are the types of things that were maybe not as exciting, but they're fundamental to ensuring that we kind of get the message out there, and that's something that the foundation funds and is funded, and donors to the foundation have funded. And then in 2022 and 2023, the operating costs have gone up. In 2022 we had the family conference. In 2023, we formulated the strategic plan. We had a sort of a strategy meeting in person. We then had outside experts who came in who've done this with nonprofits before to help us create a roadmap, create a framework and objectives. And all these come with a cost, just at an administrative cost. We have Dropbox, we have matching donor schemes, we have certain tools which are really important to help, again, create the framework so that we can scale efficiently. But it does come with a cost. The best news for anyone who's ever run a business, in 2022 and 2023, we had the admirable sort of result of we took in more money than we spent. So kudos to everyone for doing that, which is great. But that was not done just by happenstance. A lot of time and effort by a lot of the folks in the room and online and out there in the wider world went into that. And it's great to achieve that objective, but we have now put ourselves in a position where we are spending the money and spending more of that money. And we've gone from beyond just setting up the initial framework to now really finding ways that we can drive research, drive awareness, and try to move on to the next phase, which is ultimately finding ways that we can help each and every one of our kids. And so now that we have that framework in place, the bills go up, and so we're focused on ensuring that it's not just a small fraction of the community, but everyone helping in any way that they can. Next slide, please. This is just a brief overview of where the research dollars have been spent, and you've heard a lot about this. I'm sure you hear more about this from way more qualified people than myself. But this is just sort of a run-through of what the foundation itself has funded. And one of the most powerful things that was said to me early on by another sort of rare disease dad when we connected with another nonprofit, actually a member of Combined Brain, is he was adamant that when you are a small community, this is going to sound harsh, but he said at the start nobody cares. You have to be the driver of that. You have to drive the eyeballs. You have to get folks to care. And the way that we're doing that has been through, I think, very specifically coming up with a set of goals and objectives on the scientific side. And we did ask the question, if we had unlimited dollars, euros, pounds, we could do anything in the world, what should we do? And our advisors came up with a list. We said, okay, well, we don't have unlimited, so let's prioritize these and sequence them and say, okay, how can we take incremental bite-sized steps? What can we fund to get things there? And really to drive engagement. And so in 2019, that started with the ISPC human cell model. And then there was Combined Brain in 2021 and then in 2022, we funded kind of the first round of the biorepository, so the people out in the room there. That's not free. The foundation pays about $15,000 to have them here, but it's that important to drive the science, to have that data. And so we collectively made the decision to do that. We have our brilliant and invaluable Sarah, our scientific advisor, but that costs money. Sarah's, she's PhD from Vanderbilt, but it's worth it, and so we funded that. And then last year, we sort of, I didn't come up with the rocket ship, my wife did, but it's true. I mean, we really sort of pushed the boundaries of what the foundation is doing, and it's been kind of an upward trajectory, and we want to make sure that we can continue this trajectory into the future. So next slide, please. This is going to be a very big one. It's going to scare the dickens out of everyone. This is on the back of our scientific plan. You know, if anyone's interested, I'm happy to talk through what goes into this. But realistically, every year we have, you know, spending that we've identified, the vast majority for research purposes. So driving all the science that you've heard of anywhere between, you know, $200,000 and $400,000 a year. But it's important to understand that that's an achievable goal. We don't have a huge amount of patients, but if you think about, and we'll come to this in a few slides, if you think about sort of what that means from every family involved, we have every socioeconomic status, every social status. We're a global organization. We're not asking anyone to give more than they can, but we're asking people to sort of give what they're able to, given their own circumstances, and not just the families. And when we think about this, every family has extended family, maybe not. Every family has neighbors. You have people who care about your kids and who care about you, who want to help, who don't know always how to help. And this is a very small thing. It's uncomfortable asking. I hate it. My wife hates it. But it's really it's powerful, the network effects that you can see just by sort of going out with the initial ask. So next slide, please. Everyone can your hearts can start again. But so what's next for our spending priorities? So of course we have, on this screen, we have Sarah, we have the biorepository, which again we funded out there. We have this conference, which is, you know, I know it's a big sacrifice for a lot of families, but that covers only a fraction of the cost. The foundation, you know, pays for a lot of these costs ourselves. But then, you know, another one that we are very, very excited about, which Christian will talk about, is you know, our first NR2F1 sponsored postdoc researcher. And this goes to something that, what I said earlier, is how do we get, you know, folks to care? One of the sort of, you know, best ways to do that is, you know, if you want someone to focus on it, okay, let's get someone to focus on this solely. Now that's a very big step for us, but we think it should be the first of many such steps. So, you know, our goal is not just to have Elsa, although she's fantastic, we can't wait to have her on board, but we want to have, you know, support from a variety of labs, globally, a variety of researchers. We want to be able to sort of sponsor grants ourselves, so have folks come to us and say, hey, I want to research this about the NR2F1 gene. And to do that, we simply need the funds. So next slide, please, and I'll before I hand over to Jen. This is really interesting. This is data that we only were able to sort of really get into after we implemented GiveButter, and we could see sort of who's giving in what amounts. What's really powerful here is that, you know, other than a few big checks, I didn't really, you know what the individual donor pool is like. You know, now that we can analyze it, we actually received some pretty healthy individual donations. And the key piece that's also not on here, but the sort of child looking at a map graphic hopefully illustrates, is when we look at our donor pool, we are not a U.S. organization. We are a global organization. And while there are, you know, fantastic sort of, you know, I'd say country-specific organizations, NR2F1 France, we have a group in the Netherlands, we have a small community in the UK, we don't have a formal charity. We sort of have become the central repository for driving the science, driving the research, and we see that in sort of the donor engagement globally. The other piece to note here is that we have a lot of really small donations, and that is the bulk of our funding. And there is no amount that is too small. There is no amount that is too large. I will say that. To come in and make a difference. And we ask you to keep an open mind. Don't be shy. But there's a lot of ways that you can do this, no matter sort of where you are in sort of your family's journey, just to make a small difference. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jen, who's going to take us through a few of those.
I think you can switch the slide now. No, I don't know, do I?
Oh, I don't think we do. Just sorry.
Oh, I think it's on it. Is that on it? Yeah, that's on that.
Yeah, you can see it there.
Right there, okay. So I know this has been said before, but this is where we really need our help from our community to keep up the momentum. When Maggie was diagnosed at about 2.5, 3 years old, I personally felt like it was a punch in the gut. I didn't know how I was going to help her because all I wanted to do was fix it. How can I fix this? How can I fix it? And that day I found out I can't fix this. But through getting involved with the foundation and getting involved in fundraising, felt like this is my way towards making a difference and helping. And who knows? Who knows what will happen? So some of the previous fundraisers that we've already done, I think it's on, yeah, you can see that Tim's run the Chicago Marathon. Katya Rhoda has done Facebook fundraisers. There's been baking sales. The Bergen family had a walkathon. I think Carly had a garage sale, and my husband and I, as well as I think 8 other friends and family, were involved in the $1 Million Bike Ride, which was an experience. So no matter big or small, it really does make a difference. I did prepare, and you'll probably see it just around some of this QR code of how to get involved in fundraising, how can I help. It's just really a little link to just different ideas. And again, from big to small, if you have talent, if there's something that you can teach, again, it's very much appreciated. Some of the previous fundraisers that I've been able to hold over the past couple of years, I held a Facebook fundraiser when you were collecting the stem cell line collection. I shared Maggie's story, which was really sort of outside of myself to do. I shared Maggie's story. I shared what exactly we were doing with this money. And I was shocked at the generosity of family and friends that were like, wow, this is pretty amazing stuff that you're able to do and be involved in. So that was one of them. Every year our family holds a Kentucky Derby party because it's fun. So we hold that, and last year I posted on there, it's a penny drive, coin drive. Just bring whatever spare change you have, and that ended up being over $500 that I added to what we raised with the $1 Million Bike Ride, which was also involved in. I had a friend who in our community, we always have this big Halloween party. She's like, why don't we have it at a bar restaurant this year? And we're going to charge people, a ticket and put a little overhead on that. We're going to donate that to the NR2F1 Foundation, which they did. And I think that was like $1,300, which, again, it's super helpful. And I was really thankful that my community came together. In addition to that, I'm really excited. I'm trying to start a 5K. I'm sort of in the infancy stages of that. I'm certainly not a runner, but I can walk really fast. So, and I'll post more about that once I get that ball rolling a little bit more. But again, if you can at some point just look at this, think about it. It's incredibly valuable to our community, and thank you. I think the next slide that you have. These are some of the ones that we have planned for the year. Doing the $1 Million Bike Ride again, as well as, where is your?
It's sort of in Nijmegen in the Netherlands, and I know we have John online. We spoke yesterday. Doing a 100-mile walk over 3 days in the Netherlands with kind of a weighted military backpack. So thank you, Sarah, who's also listening. And then. Lastly, as Carly mentioned, we actually, Richmond, UK, not Virginia, we actually have a team running the Richmond Marathon in September. So if anyone's in Europe, wants to live like Ted Lasso and go see what it's like in Richmond, we'll be there. Jeff from Fellon from the board, as well as a number of sort of friends of our family. Just, again, think about your network effects. Just people who care about Edith are doing that September 15th. So all are welcome to join any and all of those.
I think you can move to the next slide. I'm trying to make it easy. Tim has mentioned Give Butter. It's a platform that can be used. It helps easily track previous donors. And we can easily set that up for you for whatever creative idea you come up with. And the best ideas are the ones that you're excited about and passionate about. So GiveButter is a platform we can certainly use. And I think you can go to the next slide. You can hit the to play that.
If you could click on the video, if that's possible. Oh,
Nope.
never mind. So anyway, we have a link to a video of all our kids saying thank you. We will send it out again. But no, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Again, for being here, for listening to us, but also being willing to be uncomfortable, as Jen said, and share your story, and use that as a tool to help drive a lot of what we've been talking about in terms of what the foundation does to support families, but also drive scientific research. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jen and Tim. Okay, do we have any questions for Jen and Tim? Oh, one second.
Oh, sorry.
So our people online can hear you.
Of course.
So I don't know about internationally, but in the U.S., when your birthday comes around, they're like, do you want to fundraise for something? And I always pick something, and I usually, our friends will give 150 or 200. I'm like, do not send birthday gifts. I'm way too old for that. But I do it for my children too, but I never saw the foundation listed. Do you have to register on Facebook to then be listed in that list? When I go in to make it an option, does that make sense? Like it'll say, do you want to give to blah, 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 the Arbor Foundation,
Katya?
Is it listed now?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's listed, and yes, Facebook fundraisers are a fantastic tool, and I think one of the greatest things is they're relatively passive. I would say if at all possible, we would ask that do the Facebook birthday fundraisers. They're great, but having the information that we get through GiveButter, because we don't get any of the data from Facebook. It's a nice check that comes in, or it gets deposited in the box, but we don't actually know who donated, how much, whatever. It's great, but the ability to sort of capture and understand the full network is really powerful. So we'll take everything. Let's be clear, but it is also powerful to have that. But so yes.
So if I can speak to that, a couple things. Number one, speaking of Facebook fundraisers, we've had dozens of you around the world have your Facebook birthday fundraisers. And whether it was $50 or $500 that you raised, that really added up to like thousands total over the years that we've had these birthday fundraisers. So like Tim said, we don't have the ability to track who donated and how much, as well as you creating that Facebook fundraiser. So it's easier. What I would suggest is don't stop the Facebook fundraiser. If you are in a pinch, if you really just want to go through Facebook, please don't hesitate. Keep doing it. It's awesome. But now that we have the capability with GiveButter and we can make it easy for you, like they mentioned before, I think Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, that you could still use Facebook in all your contacts, but you just refer them to our site to donate, and the page that we create for you tailored to your particular campaign. Do I have that right? Yep, you can post your link on your Facebook. So you can post the link on your Facebook, and it'll take people. And that way we can all keep track. You can thank the ones who donated personally, so on and so forth. So, Katya?
I just wanted to mention I'm one of those that love Facebook fundraisers because they're easy and, people forget who you are until you ask for money and they're like, oh yeah, I remember Nicholas. And so they're great, but last time I just dropped the GiveButter link, and the nice part about that is that now my friends are added to the GiveButter, to our email list. So now they're receiving like little emails from our foundation, and it's just raising awareness about what our condition is, what we're doing, and now they get these emails. So now everybody knows who Nicholas is and why we're doing what we do.
It's also nice because when it does take people to our site, it's a bit of a screening process. So for those that might be like, I don't know, what am I really donating to? I want to check this out. It'll take them to our site, and they can scroll around and see all the work that we're doing, and frankly, our legitimacy. And they'll see photos of our kids and all of our projects and happening. So, do we have any more questions before we? All right, let's give it another round of applause for Jen.
Thanks.